This is Strange New Trek, a podcast about the life and times of Captain Christopher Pike. And now your hosts. As William Thomas Riker once said, fate protects fools, little children, and ships named Enterprise. And I have always been a huge fan of the Starship Enterprise. Matter of fact, my third birthday cake was kind of shaped like it. My mom was not a baker, so let's not dwell on that too much. But there have been other ships by that name in both history and fantasy, and there will be others still to come. This week we're going to talk about the history of the vessels named Enterprise. And joining me in this discussion is my number one, Commander Dog, and our chief engineer, Chris Noonien-Singh. What's happening, Chris?
Hey. Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, I know we both kind of needed a discovery break, so here we are with this episode.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a fun little diversion. And it's not like I'm sick of Discovery. It's just like I kind of felt like we needed to step back from it for an episode or so,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about the history of ships named Enterprise, or vessels named Enterprise, and this of course kind of plays into your real life field of work. You want to give us a quick description of what you do and why you would know something about these vessels?
Well, I know about the modern aircraft carriers because I do. I'm an electronics person on Navy ships and submarines with a special emphasis in fiber optics currently. So I do know some things, but like you go back far enough and I don't have a clue.
Well, look, the older ones were made out of wood, right? I mean, what is there to know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, just, you also you seem to study things of a military history. And
to be fair, my focus on military history is usually aircraft.
Well, and that's kind of one of the Enterprises is an aircraft carrier.
Yes, several of them, a couple of them, even
So
three, even.
Kind of, and you knew that off the top of your head.
Yeah,
you're being a little too modest, I think.
Yep.
But, so anyhow, we're going to start with that and kind of run from there. Anything you want to talk about before we get started?
No, I think we're good, man. All
right. Well, the first one that I came across, and I can't pronounce it because my French pronunciation is not good at all, but it's, La Enterprise, I guess.
L'Enterprise.
Yeah, because I think that'd be,
I don't know.
L'Entreprise, I think would be it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's what the first known human ship named Enterprise. I'm not sure why Wikipedia had to add in that first known human ship.
Probably because somewhere in here they have an Andorian ship that is the equal to it. And Wikipedia may know something we don't, though.
Right?
Yeah, there might be a Martian ship out there that we don't know about.
Name the Enterprise?
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even really, the word's there, but I kind of just glossed over it every time I saw it. I missed it. I'm looking right at it, but it's the brain, the brain didn't pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird way to name it. So that ship, I don't think we have a lot of idea when it was commissioned, but it was a 320-ton, 24-gun, 6th-rate frigate. The funny fact about this ship is that when she was captured by the British in 1705, the British renamed her HMS Enterprise, as in with a Z, as in, I just got this prize.
Hey, it's
that's a nice slap in the face.
Yeah, that's an interesting spin on it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to happen. I don't think that's a thing that happens now, but that's a thing that used to happen during the Age of Sail. Is you would take a ship and rechristen it. I think nowadays we just sink them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like our rules of engagement probably prevent us from doing things like taking ships like that, or as our own.
And being all piratey and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm not sure how all that works these days. Like, should the Navy ever find itself grabbing a ship from another country and keeping it as its own?
Yeah. You know, I thought was kind of interesting was, you know, in Ukraine, if you, as a Ukrainian citizen, if you take over a abandoned Russian tank, you don't have to pay income tax on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. They passed a law just for that, you know?
Well, I mean, it's probably a way to help.
Oh, you know, 100%, you know,
like
it's just,
keep people trying to take them out of commission.
yeah. But, you know, you got to figure like, I would have just thought like, oh, you know, we're fighting for our lives against an invader. I'll take this tank. You know, I never thought about the tax implications of it. Oh, so as of 2007, the Royal Navy has had 13 more ships named Enterprise with a Z, of which 10 were commissioned ships and therefore use the prefix HMS, His or Her Majesty's ship.
Yep, it's His Majesty's ship currently.
These days it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
But for 115 years there, it was hers. As of 2019, the United States Navy has had 8 vessels named Enterprise, of which 6 were commissioned and used the prefix USS, United States ship.
Yeah.
A 9th ship bearing the name is currently under construction.
Yeah, that's going to be the new Gerald R. Ford class of ships. And I guess they, normally with the class of ships, they stay on a theme. Mm-hmm. So, like, since it's the Gerald R. Ford class, most all the other ships are going to be named after presidents. So I imagine this is the one oddball out.
Yeah. You know, I always find it interesting how they name certain things like that. And I had wondered when I was younger if eventually they would introduce in Star Trek an Enterprise class, but then name them all after past captains.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, as when they blew up the Enterprise D, I think I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Navy kind of does their classes thematically. So the first ship of the class, you know, the rest of them kind of follow along with that naming convention.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's by state or presidents in this case, or some other theme that they have chosen for it.
Gotcha. So when we switch over here to what was before the United States, the Continental Navy, which was part of the Continental Congress.
Yeah.
They had the USS Enterprise from 1775 to 1777, a 70-ton sloop that served on Lake Champlain.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Aren't the Great Lakes landlocked lakes? Or no?
You know what? I don't know. Not from that part of the country, so I've never really looked. Let me check.
Me neither. That's in that weird middle section.
Yeah. We all just kind of fly over that part, you know?
Yeah.
Lake Champlain. That sure looks landlocked to me.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering I guess there was still shipping. Lake Champlain is pretty big, so.
Oh, it is. It covers a lot of space from the
Yeah, so, I guess maybe that's why they needed a military presence there.
Yeah.
Or, it could just be because, the Navy also used that as a shipping thing.
We still had the English coming out of Canada at that point, too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so I'm sure there were probably a couple lake-bound battles, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And these are the years right as the Revolutionary War was kicking off, so.
Yep.
Sense.
A sloop is a sailing warship, but it's a small one. All right, so at roughly the same time, there was a ship just called Enterprise that served from 1776 to 1777, a 25-ton schooner.
Yep.
That served in the Chesapeake Bay. One of these ships was the the inspiration for the holographic sailing ship in Star Trek Generations.
Now, I don't even recall what that is.
There was a scene in Generations where they were promoting Worf from lieutenant commander to commander, I think. And they were all on a sailboat, and then Data, not understanding humor, starts shoving people in the water.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Yep. Generations was not a great movie. It was just a movie in many ways, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there was a USS Enterprise from 1799 to 1823. 135-ton schooner defeated a 14-gun, well, I know it's Triple E, so it's a Tripolitan Corsair?
Tripolitan, maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
Corsair
and Tripoli 1801. In 1800, refit upgraded her tonnage to 165, and in 1812, she was re-rigged as a brig. So
the year they decided to do that's curious. You know, I think there was a war popping off that year.
There was. I can't remember the name of it, but there was the war of something that year.
1812.
Oh, yeah, that was it. The next USS Enterprise was from 1831 to 1844, a 194-ton schooner. Let me see, in the schooner, that's a multi-sail ship, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So next we go on to the Union Army Balloon Corps. I mean, you know, I give them credit for trying it out, right?
Yeah, may as well.
You know, they were probably still thinking airships and, you know, hoping for a future of steampunk at that point.
Yeah, this little balloon kind of looks like a smaller, like one of those balloons you would fly in a basket below it.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that.
That's kind of what I was figuring. And I guess back then, what would you do? You could drop bombs from it.
Yeah. I mean,
rifle.
Rifle, pistol, whatever. Yeah, you could drop bombs out of that thing for sure.
Oh yeah, there. I just pulled up a drawing of it. Yeah, that's totally what it looks like. Is like a 1 or 2 man little basket.
I feel like they were probably mainly used for reconnaissance, though. I'm not sure how many bomb types we had in 1861.
Just those old, like you see the French anarchists with, right?
Probably.
Yeah. 1877 to 1909, a 1,375-ton bark-rigged cruise sloop of war. She was the first Enterprise known to use the USS prefix while in actual service.
Oh, yeah, that's fair, because the first USS Enterprise, there was no United States yet. Oh, well, I mean, I guess they still called it the Continental Navy of the United States, but
the actual formation and the Constitution were a few years off still.
Yeah, I guess that's about right.
Yeah. Enterprise SP-790 from 1917 to 1919, a motorboat. That word will always make me laugh. Non-commissioned, served in the 2nd Naval District during World War I. There's
a sentence you don't think about very much. Motorboat used in conjunction with World War I. I mean, obviously they existed, but like, I don't know, when I think about World War I, I'm not thinking about motorboats and stuff.
No, you know, because I mean, you still, even though there were a few motorized vehicles, you still think of men on horseback or in trenches.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it was still such a nasty, nasty, nasty war, you know?
Oh, yeah, all that trench fighting, man. Yeah. That had to have been hell.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Then we get to the next USS Enterprise, the CV-6. Now we're starting to get into more modern type ships.
Yeah, that was known as the Big E. It's a 19,800-ton Yorktown-class aircraft carrier, and it was the most decorated World War II ship in the service.
Really?
So,
that's interesting.
Yeah, man, they were part of a lot of stuff. I think mainly in the Pacific, but yeah, they were fairly instrumental in a lot of naval battles.
Oh wow, okay. And then following that would be the USS Enterprise CVN-65.
Yeah, that N on the end of CVN just stands for nuclear. So this would have been our first nuclear aircraft carrier.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it has like 8 reactors in it, which they weren't super sure how many they needed to run everything. So they just, you know, this is my headcanon. I think they just were like, screw it, we'll just go with 8. Yeah, so this would have been the Kitty Hawk class ship, which was succeeded by the Nimitz class, which is our current iteration of the aircraft carrier. We do not have any Enterprise in the Nimitz classes, though. So the Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carrier, CVN-80 USS Enterprise would be the first one since this one.
Oh, wow. Okay. Looks like they did. You know, I'm going to ask you this like you're an expert on this, not necessarily specifically, but it looks like they did quite a bit of experimental stuff with ships named Enterprise.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the main thing being that those 8 reactors, after that, they just kind of moved to 2 reactors.
Yeah.
She has 4 rudders, which is 2 more than any other class of ship. Normally, you only have 2 rudders, but this one has 4, I guess, I don't know why they did it like that.
Well, of course, this Enterprise, the CVN-65, sort of made an appearance in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
Yeah. Oddly, a non-nuclear aircraft carrier portrayed the Enterprise in that movie. That was the USS Ranger, CV-61.
Yeah, they probably weren't going to allow film crews on a nuclear vessel, so to speak.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you look at a picture of the ship, like it does look fairly similar to its nuclear counterpart. So it's not like the Ranger looked way different.
Well, no, I would assume it has a similar profile and that sort of thing, where yeah. And most of us wouldn't know. Hey, there's an aircraft carrier. Like, hey, it's the Enterprise. Look at that.
Wait a second. That actually looks like the Ranger. What are they doing here?
What are you trying to pull?
Yeah, I wouldn't have been. I don't think I would have been able to tell the difference.
Yeah. Well, and then we get into air/spacecraft, which brings up the balloon by the Army Balloon Corps.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, bring that one up again. And then the one we had to discuss a little bit before the start of the show would be the Space Shuttle OV-101, which was the first orbiting shuttle, but it was actually built as a landing craft. This was going to be named something else, and I should have looked it up, but I didn't. But a writing campaign by Star Trek fans got it renamed to the Enterprise, which is interesting because Star Trek often shows this amongst the collection of ships named Enterprise, which, of course, Chris brings up the question, was Star Trek a show in the Star Trek universe?
I mean, it could have been.
Yeah, I don't see why not,
because basically they're making... Basically, instead of it being like a fictional show, it'd be like a documentary type thing.
Yeah.
Well, not really, because that stuff wouldn't have happened yet. Never mind.
Well, maybe they could have made a documentary and then they got lost in the past with some kind of time travel accident. Somebody needed to go back in time and find an extinct octopus, and they left these data crystals laying around with these old episodes of the Star Trek. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this.
I think so.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, and during its rollout, the entire Star Trek cast and Gene Roddenberry was there.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a cool thing there for them to do,
Yeah, and I want to say when the current Enterprise got decommissioned, I'm pretty sure Shatner and maybe George Takei were both there.
Could have been. I vaguely remember when that happened because I was somewhere where one of them. They were flying around on the backs of 747s low enough that you could see them from the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's still crazy to me. Like, just having a shuttle strapped to the back of another airplane.
Yeah.
And seeing it in flight like that.
No, it was because I remember I was at work, but I was working in Concord, California at the time, and they had schedules of when ones were going to be out, so we actually walked outside to look, and sure enough, almost directly above us, you could look up and see it,
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. We need to get a shuttle program back so we can have another spacefaring Enterprise.
Some version of something, anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the next one's a conceptual design, and it was for a ship with the Alcubierre drive, which is a theoretical, warp engine, basically, that literally warps space. It expands space behind you and shrinks it in front of you.
Yeah.
This was the IXS Enterprise. You can find artwork of it. It is kind of Enterprise inspired in that it's got a large disk section up front and then a rear engineering section with 2 ring drives. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of has what you might be able to describe as nacelles.
Yeah.
But it looks like it has 4 of them. So it definitely does look a little different from the Star Trek Enterprise, but I don't think that if you saw this craft in any of the Star Treks, like, I don't think it would look too much out of place in the other ships in the Starfleet. inventory.
Yeah, I think you'd look at it and think, hey, that fits, that works, yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one, of course, is a private endeavor. It's the VSS Enterprise, which is Virgin Galactic's space plane.
Yeah,
kind of an unceremonious end. I believe it broke apart on a test flight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Killed the pilot, one of the pilots, and
I didn't even know.
Guy.
I didn't know somebody died in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that killed the pilot, and the other pilot was injured.
Oh man. Yeah, I see. I didn't realize that. Somehow I had missed hearing about that, so it didn't stand out in my memory.
Yeah, evidently there's some system that they deployed a little too early that caused the problem. I'm not sure past that.
Yeah, well, it's flight, space flight, all of it's kind of dangerous, especially when you're doing experimental,
Yeah.
I hate to hear of anybody dying for it, but it unfortunately does seem to be a constant in that sort of thing.
Yeah. That's what sucks about progress on this scale, man. Like, there's bound to be some casualties involved in it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what the Russians covered up during the space race,
Oh, I'm sure a lot. There's a couple things about that whole time period that is rife for conspiracy theory, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Because we had our share of accidents, and we were being pretty careful about how we handled things.
Yeah, we were fairly public about it, though.
Yeah.
There was that rumor that Russia had left an astronaut up there, and like for a little while, I think shortwave radio enthusiasts could like pick up his transmissions, and they weren't good.
Yeah, you know what? I do remember hearing something about that at one.
Now, I don't know if that's I don't know if that story is part of the conspiracy stuff or not, but I always thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll have to do a deep dive on that soon.
Well, it's certainly something to check into,
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're going to start moving into the Star Trek universe. And we are going to start with the NX-01, which was the ship used in Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah.
Captained by Jonathan Archer. It was an NX class for the United Earth, I believe it was still the United Earth Space Probe Agency at that time. It was in service, it appears, for 10 years, and it was instrumental, of course, in the formation of the United Federation of Planets. Now, because we're doing a Star Trek show, we can actually start to use a little conjecture and opinion here. What are your thoughts on this ship?
Well, I have only watched the Mirror episodes. It was a Mirror episode because the Gorn was in it. So that's really the only experience I have with Enterprise. But looking at the ship, I don't know. It feels like this one is more advanced than it should be.
It always looked to me like a ship from Next Gen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Well, that's where my mind was at. Like, it definitely looks like a later than TOS type ship for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you go look up the Akira class from Next Generation, they're almost dead ringers for each other.
So that one captained by Jonathan Archer for the NX class of ships.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move on to the NCC 1701.
Now here's the true beauty of the series. I will always love this ship, probably beyond all others, but you never forget your first love, No,
you're right. Well, I mean, just think about how much Star Trek, both past and present, have taken place on the Enterprise. So,
yep. Well, and you look, this thing has even when they get away from it, they are still paying homage to the design of this ship. The kind of tuning fork engines, the large saucer sections. It's still one that's kind of referenced in most of their designs. So. Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, like, I don't know, man. Like, maybe it's just because I've seen the ship literally my whole life. It always seems like, once we get to a position here on Earth where we have, basically space shipyards, like it wouldn't, like I could see a ship like this being built.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't seem like out of the realm of, it doesn't seem like out of the realm of possibility for a reality based ship.
Yeah. Let's see here. So chronologically, this first appears now in the Star Trek Strange New Worlds or Discovery, depending on how you want to, label those out.
Yeah.
It covers the original TOS series plus the first 3 Star Trek films. And this ship has 5 captains that we know. Robert April, who oversaw its construction. Christopher Pike, who, of course, we know is the first pilot in then Strange New Worlds. Who would then pass the ship to James T. Kirk. When he was promoted to Admiral, William Decker becomes captain. And then finally, by the Wrath of Khan, it is moved to a training ship, and now Spock is captain of the ship.
Yeah, that was actually interesting that they did that. Again, this is something grounded in real life. We take some of the older submarines and kind of do that with them, make them into training boats, some of them anyway. So, yeah, it was kind of cool the way they did that and how it kind of mirrors real life. It
was kind of an interesting thought. I remember as a kid seeing that, and you're like, finally, Spock gets his own ship. It's about time. It was a Constitution class, and it was built in the shipyards in San Francisco. Gene Roddenberry always loved to reference San Francisco. And, of course, if you really wanted to get into it, if you were to try to list off all the notable missions and crew members of that ship over its time, I think there'd be too many to really sit down and reasonably do in a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Of course, that ship was destroyed over the Genesis planet in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
Oh, yeah.
And then after being court-martialed or put on trial or whatever it was, Kirk is taken from Admiral and demoted back to Captain and then given his own ship again because, he just saved the universe again.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of thing would not happen in modern times in the real world. Usually when an officer that high rank messes up that bad, they force him to retire.
It's retirement, yeah.
Yeah, they don't demote him back to being able to captain a ship.
Yeah, what's the job you really want now that you've stolen a ship and, gone against every order you've been given? So then they get the Enterprise A, and that is the ship that they have from, parts 5 and
6, probably
5 and 6. Yeah. Now when I was younger, there was always a rumor, and I don't know how we used to get rumors before the internet, but there was always the rumor that this Enterprise had actually started off as the USS Yorktown and was refit into the Enterprise A. If this is true, that'd be interesting because, of course, the original idea for the ship name for the original Star Trek was the Yorktown.
Yeah, but I think there has been rumors on multiple iterations of the Enterprise that it was going to be named that because I want to say the Enterprise on Enterprise was also rumored to be carrying the Yorktown moniker.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay.
What's funny about them going back and forth between the Yorktown and then the Enterprise is the first aircraft carrier Enterprise was a Yorktown class ship.
Mm-hmm. I did see that as we were preparing. And I thought that was kind of a neat callback as well,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So after the Enterprise A, we get to the Enterprise B, captained by John Harriman was his name, and he was good friends with Ferris Bueller.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The Enterprise,
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot all about him being
Alan Ruck. That was kind of, I mean, he didn't. Alan Ruck looks like he could command a ship now that he's an older man and more stately looking. But when you're my age, you look at him and you think, oh hey, it's that dude from Ferris Bueller. So the Enterprise B was a Excelsior class ship. I believe it was a slightly reworked one, not using the original model. Its most famous deployment is probably where Captain Kirk was killed in the Nexus ribbon in Star Trek Generations.
Yep.
Yeah. I believe they have referenced him or referenced B and its crew in the novels, but that's about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I read some of the novels when I was a kid, but I have not. I've not read them in so long.
Yeah, certainly not recently, and certainly not all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Trek's kind of has a Star Wars problem with the novels.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know,
I mean, some people wouldn't consider it a problem, but like if you're like me, like when I get into a fandom, like I like to go all in on it. But Star Trek and Star Wars, it ain't happening. There's too much.
It goes. Yeah, it gets too wild too quick. Like in a lot of the next gen novels, I remembered it was revealed that there was a cetacean ops deck crewed by whales and dolphins. And they were necessary. They had like little bubble helmets so they could get out and float around the ship, and little things that translated their speech to human. But they would sit in these pools and help navigate the ship somehow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. The Enterprise C. Now this is an interesting one because it was basically skipped over. We went from the Enterprise A, but we had seen an Excelsior class. And then when Star Trek The Next Generation came along, which had the Enterprise D, but in between we really didn't know about what the B and C were. Most people assumed that the Enterprise B would have been an Excelsior class because that was the next upcoming class of ship. So the way they designed the C was they basically took an Excelsior class, or a drawing of one, and the Enterprise D connected their points with basically like tacks and string, and then marked where the in-between an Excelsior class and a Galaxy class would be. So it is quite literally like a tweener between two different designs.
It does appear in the Next Generation in the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, and it was destroyed.
Yep.
Unfortunately, one of the survivors included one Tasha Yar.
A time-displaced Tasha Yar.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and almost the entire command crew was killed before they could actually go back in time and handle what they were supposed to.
Yeah,
they ended up calling the class of ship the Ambassador class, and it's actually a nice looking class of ship. That's its model is reused here and there throughout Next Generation.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell it was like a ship design with a little column A and a little column B.
Yes, you can.
Once you look at the preceding and succeeding ships.
Yeah, when you put them in a line.
You can definitely tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll go to the Enterprise D, which is probably the second most famous Enterprise.
Yep, Galaxy
class. You know what? You might even say it's the most because way more people watched 7 years of the Next Generation than they did the original 3 years of Star Trek.
Yeah, but I mean, the original 3 years of Star Trek played in syndication forever.
Yeah, for 25 years at this point, or near enough.
I mean, yeah, I watched it while it was in syndication, so
yeah.
It's been way more than 25 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, but I mean, at the point where Next Gen came out, it had been 21.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, by then, there had already been Star Treks 1 through 3 or 4, and, but the D is kind of interesting because now this ship looks a little less functional than the ships we've seen before. It looks more like a yacht or a cruise ship or something.
I don't know about that. I don't get that impression from it. It just, no. I mean, I guess I could see where you might get that from, though. Because I'm looking at a picture of it, like obviously the outside of it, and I guess I could see where you're coming from. But
yeah,
I mean, to me, it has always looked like. Well, I mean, this is the Star Trek I grew up watching, so
sure.
I'm probably a little biased on this one, but
yeah, well, it's like my little brother. Who's right around your age. He calls this is his Enterprise.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So I guess when this ship was first designed, it was actually longer. And it still had a big oval saucer section, and it was laid out a little bit different. But then when they realized they were going to be on a 4x3 TV, they actually spun everything 90 degrees to give it a shorter, fatter appearance.
No.
Because
I didn't know that.
It's going to be on a little square screen instead of a movie screen.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So they had this ship during all 7 seasons of The Next Generation.
Yeah.
And then promptly let Deanna Troi drive it into a mountain in the first Next Gen movie.
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, they separate the saucer and the engineering section, and she crashes the saucer right into a planet.
Well, don't they do another saucer separation like within the first couple episodes of the
they do one. They
Next
do
Generation?
one right. They do one right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were going to actually every time this ship was going to get into combat, there was going to be a saucer separation, and then they realized just how expensive it would be to do that every episode.
I mean, plus, and it's not very, if you're thinking about it from a practical standpoint, not from, movie making on the ground, but like, if you're thinking about it practically from the Enterprise's point of view, that still doesn't make any sense to constantly do that.
No. And you know what always kind of got me on that one was you would evacuate everybody's families into the saucer section, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have the bottom of the ship has the battle bridge. It has warp drive. It has all that. Now all the civilian-like people are in the saucer section, which does not have warp drive. So it's going to go be a sitting duck.
Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm. I always kind of thought I could see why you would do it, but you would want warp on there somewhere,
Well, yeah, I think the first time that they used it, it was a pretty good situation to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, I don't know why you would want to do that constantly. Because first of all, it's going to be rough on the ship every time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just introducing multiple preventable points of failure.
Yep, no, it's true. It's the same reason you yell at your kids not to slam the car door every time.
Eventually. Yeah. You're going to knock that lock out of whack and it won't work.
Exactly.
Then I'll have to put a little, I'll have to bust out my roll of duct tape to fix it.
You got to put one of those gate latches on there, and now your car door is being held shut by a master lock.
Yep.
So the D, of course, would go on. Well, if we get into it, there's 7 seasons of the show. Of course, we know the command crew. There was only one, but there were 3 captains of the Enterprise during its time on the show. There was Picard.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the period of time where Picard had been captured and kidnapped by the Borg, William Riker was promoted to captain.
Yep. And
then when they sent Picard on a special Black Ops mission, they brought in Captain Jellicoe to take over.
Yeah, I don't even recall that.
Oh yeah, that was actually a good one. And he comes off like you think he's going to be a bad guy, but it just turns out he's a little bit of a taskmaster, but he's right about everything he does.
Oh, so here's something cool. One of the alternate timelines for Next Generation, I think last episode type thing,
mm-hmm.
and then maybe they showed it had it not crashed during Star Trek Generations. So that alternate timeline D model, it kind of looks like that that conceptual design from 2013, the IXS Enterprise. If you look at it, it looks way more like that one than the normal Enterprise look. Because, it's got that extra nacelle on there. It it looks kind of like that IXS one.
Yeah, so by adding the extra nacelle, you kind of blow up that. Yeah, because I remember on the IXS, there's the back has engines that looks like mounted, and then with the rings around it, so it kind of looks like nacelles out the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go on to the Enterprise E, which was the Sovereign class introduced in First Contact. While it was a cool looking ship, I didn't like the lack of a neck in this design, but it did look good. I mean, it's not like I reject it from reality or anything. I just always preferred the Star Trek ships to have a neck,
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a classic silhouette, man. You can't change that.
That's kind of how I felt about it. It was even though the D had different shapes, you could still recognize what it was supposed to be.
Yep.
Yeah, Excelsior, the same thing. Yeah, it might be long and kind of spindly, but it's all the stuff is in the right place.
Yeah.
They would have this ship throughout the rest of the movie series from First Contact through Nemesis. But Nemesis, the less I say about that, probably the better.
It's in Insurrection also.
Oh yeah. There was that one in between there.
Yeah, I don't those movies, man. With the exception of the first original series movie, I really liked the Star Trek movies until the Next Generation ones started coming out. They were just, I don't know, They just, even though the Next Generation was like quote unquote my Star Trek, I did not enjoy hardly any of the movies.
Well, you notice like when they get into the Next Generation movies, and I'm sure other people have done this better, but it becomes the Data Picard show. And everybody else is kind of like put on a raft and left in the background somewhere. And Data and Picard are like the best friends who ever lived. And neither one of them are really the characters they were in the TV show.
Yeah, and that's probably what put me off of him. Because with the original series crew, it feels like they were still the same characters from the show.
Yeah. Yeah, they were still recognizable in every way. And they still fulfilled all the same roles, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas this, like all of a sudden now you're focusing on Data and Picard and everything's about the two of them. And Picard is now suddenly a revenge-driven lunatic and they all break the rules. Like, can you imagine the Picard on the TV show Next Generation breaking the Federation rules as many times as he did in those couple movies?
Absolutely not.
No way. Yeah. There is no way. So we get that through the end of that movie. Now we get a kind of an interesting little thing here. The Star Trek Online game introduced an Enterprise F at some point.
An Odyssey class.
Yeah. Now, the most recent preview trailer thingies of Picard Season 3, we see the Enterprise F, and it is the one from the game. So they are taking this from the game and making it a canon ship. We don't know anything about it. So far, we don't know who the crew is, but we will be seeing that in the new Picard season when that starts in February. Yeah,
this is another one of the iterations that I don't care for a whole lot for pretty much the same reasons. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have any neck. It to me, it more closely resembles the Enterprise NX.
Sure. Yeah, more flattened out and close together. Yeah. So that one is coming. Now, there are a few things that stand out here that were kind of, I don't know, apocryphal may or may not be quite the right name for it, but there is the NCC 1701J from an episode of Star Trek Enterprise. It is a time ship, and it looks a bit like a pizza cutter.
Yeah, this thing looks dumb.
Yeah.
Like really, really dumb. Really dumb.
Yeah. Then there is the NCC 1701M, which is a museum replica of the Enterprise from a fan-made movie called Star Trek of Gods and Men. I can't remember. Our friend Rico may or may not had something to do with this one. I can't remember for sure, but Tim Russ from Voyager did.
Okay.
And Alan Ruck, John Harriman is in there as the captain of one ship or another. There's a lot of past parts are brought up, like Nichelle Nichols is in there. The guy that played Ston in Amok Time is in there. It's one to kill an hour if you want to sit down and watch it, but it's not one of the greatest fan films I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this guy right here, the XCV-330, which is a USS Enterprise Earth spacecraft that was warp capable, but they've never really settled on when this thing was used or why it was in existence. Yeah,
I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, it's a ring ship. Its design was eventually used for Vulcans, or it was the base idea for the Vulcan ships. Yeah. But this was one of Matt Jeffries' designs for the Enterprise. They didn't think it looked big enough to hold the crew that the Enterprise was supposed to carry. But in Star Trek the Motion Picture, there's a shot that shows historical vessels named Enterprise, and it's one of those. And in Star Trek Into Darkness, when you're sitting in Admiral Marcus's office and there's the Enterprise models on his desk.
That's Badmiral Marcus.
Oh, sorry,
sir?
Badmiral Marcus, yes. But on his desk is also a model of this ship.
Yeah, I don't even recall.
I always liked it. It was like one of those weird, what the heck is that ship kind of things,
Yeah. And then we actually have Paramount before the motion picture had planned a movie called Planet of the Titans.
Oh yeah.
That featured a super redesigned Enterprise. I mean, looking at it, it would still plant you very firmly in Star Trek, but it appears that original design is what the Discovery ship was based on. It looks like a flying wing with a saucer on top, pretty much.
No, it is pretty much the shape of the Discovery. Interestingly enough, that was designed by Ralph McQuarrie, who did all the designs for George Lucas's Star Wars. But yeah, they actually had a number of things where they were working on redesigns and reboots and new TV shows. No, it's a movie. No, it's a TV show. All these ideas to get Star Trek back out there. But yeah, I do believe they've even admitted that the Discovery was meant to look like that ship.
Yeah, which, I mean, cool. I like the design of the Discovery, especially in the later seasons, because they go through a refit where somehow the nacelles aren't like attached.
I have seen that on the ships from those seasons, that the nacelles just kind of hang out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks really cool though. Like what you would think about, all the if you'd seen that much progress in starship design from the time Discovery left till the time they came back.
Oh yeah, look, I mean, that's the thing, is you have to move science forward. One of the things I find most irritating about Star Wars is that apparently for 10,000 years they had the same level of technology. Yeah.
I mean, I've always like, I don't remember the prequel movies. I probably saw one or two of them, maybe not even in their entirety, but I don't know. It always seemed to me like the Star Trek universe was living in a remnant of a once technologically advanced civilization, because you're right. You don't see a whole lot of innovation, especially on the rebel side.
Right.
Now the Empire, they still have, they still are making strides and stuff. You got Kylo Ren's lightsaber and then the new, basically Death Star, like, so there's some different things the Empire has going on, but on the other side, they're still working with old stuff.
It's just old and dirty. That's the way the Rebel does things. All right. Well, Chris, anything you want to comment on or close on with the Enterprise?
No, I don't think so. I am really, really looking forward to planting my feet down on the newest aircraft carrier when it's finally commissioned. Hopefully I will be able to get like a patch or a coin or a hat when we do finally see it.
Well, when they had a year up there, what did they say, 2025 or something?
Yeah, but given the massive amounts of issues the Ford class is having, that's probably been pushed to the right, I imagine.
Maybe not.
I mean, they already started building a second one, so which I think the newest one, the one they're working on now, is the Kennedy, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. But yeah, I will definitely be interested in walking on that ship when it gets into my shipyard finally.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, anybody out there who's listening, if you know something we missed there, please go ahead and throw it in the comments on our website or on YouTube or wherever you're listening to it at. But if you have any other questions, comments, or theories you want to run by us, hit up our website at strangenewtrekshow.com or follow the links in the show notes for this episode in your podcast app of choice. Please rate and review us wherever you listen to us. It's one small step for you, but a giant leap for the show. Special thanks to Miguel Esparza for the Strange New Trek theme, and to Will Harding for all of his hard work in the YouTube department. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to set your phasers to stun and join us next time when we're on to the next planet of the week.